Army Meets episode 5 we're on now. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Chris Millard from the Barmy Army. Thank you all for tuning in once again. First of all, I'd like to give you a bit of Barmy good news. Our podcast, The Shackles Are Off, is now #1 in the cricket podcast chart, and UK and Norway for some strange reason. So if you're a Norwegian listening to our podcast out there, thank you very much. Anyway, thank you all so much for downloading it, and make sure you give it a go if you haven't heard it already. As many of you will be familiar with Barmy Meets now, every Thursday we're in partnership with Opening Up. Opening Up promotes mental well-being and suicide prevention through cricket. They deliver sessions with clubs and offer resources online with a focus on positive mental health. Since 2014, they've been saying it's not weak to speak to encourage conversation on what is such an important topic. Be sure to check them out on social media or at openingup.com. As always, a further note to say thank you to all of our frontline key workers, from the NHS to the shell stackers in the supermarket. You're keeping the country running, so thank you from everyone at the Barmy Army. Now, as we're all still cooped up in isolation, we thought we'd bring you another opportunity to speak to one of your cricketing heroes. The past 4 weeks have brought us Woody, Sam Curran, Liam Plunkett and Joe Denley. If you haven't seen them, check them out on our Barmy Army YouTube page. But without further ado, I'd like to give you a warm welcome to England World Cup winning hero, Chris WOAKES. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. Thanks for having me on. It's not too bad in isolation and all that, but getting by.
Managing, yeah, absolutely. Good to hear. All the family okay, and your newest member keeping you busy?
Oh, she certainly is, mate. She's nearly 2 now, so she's here, there and everywhere. But I tell you what, I'm thankful that we're not having to homeschool like some parents are out there.
Yeah.
That looks like a right graft. But no, we're all good, mate. It's nice to spend a bit of time at home with them. Obviously, we're away a lot of the time, so trying to embrace it as much as we can.
Well, that's it, isn't it? A lot of the cricketers and you guys, you don't spend a lot of time at home, so it's quite nice to really spend time with your kids and with your missus as well, I guess.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Yeah, we're not at each other's throats as well, which is a good sign. But no, yeah, exactly that. I think, it's obviously not an ideal situation that we're in, but at the same time, to have the opportunity to be home for a long period of time, which we just don't get anymore with the schedule and cricket taking over pretty much our lives most of the time. It's nice to have this time at home and try and really enjoy it with the family.
Yeah, good man, absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more for you guys. I know it's good to be at home. Now, we're aiming to ask as many members questions as possible. If you comment on the live stream, I will read them out. I've got some questions you've all sent in. There's quite a lot for Chris, as we would expect. But to kick things off, I want to ask you a question. What was it like bowling the first ball of a World Cup final?
Nervous, mate. Not going to lie, very, very nervy. When we watched it back a couple of weeks ago at the Easter weekend, and I just remember the feeling of being in the huddle before kind of going out onto the, to take the first ball. And I just remember thinking to myself, I'm going to bowl the first ball in a World Cup final here, like no pressure or anything. And it wasn't wide. A little bit wide of off stump more than I'd anticipated. But to be honest, I was just happy that it hit the cut strip.
Get that one off there. Well, at least it wasn't Harmison from 06.
Yeah, not quite that bad. Thankfully.
Right, we're going to get straight to it. We've got questions in already, but the first one is being submitted from Hector. And now he's asked you, why are you so good at Lords?
It's a question which I kind of been asked quite a bit, but it's hard to kind of put into words really or explain why, because I remember playing my first few games at Lords, not for England, but for Warwickshire, and actually really struggling. I struggled with the slope, didn't really know which end suited me best. And then out of nowhere, I kind of just clicked. And thankfully for me, it was when I was playing for England and playing test matches, which is obviously helpful. But yeah, I don't know why. Since then, I had obviously a couple of good games in 2016, one against Sri Lanka, and then followed up with a really good game against Pakistan. And since then, I kind of just, I had good memories of the ground, good memories of both ends, actually, but in particular, nursery end. And it's just kind of carried on since. Thankfully, there's been a couple of games where it's been quite bowler-friendly as well, so that's helped. But yeah, I think now, I know I've performed there. I can go back and kind of just look back on those fond memories, and that stands me in good stead.
Good man. And you're obviously Jordan Harris has mentioned that you're on the honours board for both batting and bowling. Which means more to you?
Good question. I mean, bowling really. I think because I never really anticipated or expected to get on the honours board with the bat, to be honest.
Yeah.
But with the ball, I mean, I suppose that's my primary job in the team is to bowl and hopefully take wickets. So I think being on the honours board for getting fifers is probably the most important thing for me. But scoring 100 at Lords is something which I literally, it still hasn't really sunk in, I suppose. And I just wish I'd have taken it in a little bit more. That 30 seconds you get to gloat and raise your bat and stuff. I wish I'd have took it in a little bit more. Maybe just extended it a little bit more as well.
I hope you keep reminding the lads though that you are on the batting honours board at Lords.
Oh yeah, mate. Every time one of the boys, Mo's got every time someone scores 100 for England, Mo, regardless of how many it is, he always says, "Oh, welcome to the club, mate." I remember when I scored my first and things like that. So I always pull that line out at Lords occasionally, especially if it's one of the batters that get on the board.
Yeah, quite right as well. Now, Tom Haig has asked on the live stream, what was your favourite World Cup wicket?
Without a doubt, David Warner in the semi-final, I think. That was obviously such a massive game. Facing the Aussies at home in a semi-final of a World Cup. Having lost to them early in the tournament, and obviously they gave us a bit of a hiding there. I think everyone was pumped for that game. I mean, no doubt it was a semi-final of a World Cup. So, and the fact we started so well. Obviously, Jofra got Finch first ball, and then for me to follow up with Warner in the next over, that was that was up there with the best wicket, not only in my World Cup but my career, to be honest.
What do you remember the atmosphere when you took that wicket?
Yeah, the roar. I mean, to be honest, actually, that day was really special for me. Obviously, playing a home semi-final for your country is pretty special. And I just remember kind of getting a really good and louder kind of welcome and roar when I came on to bowl, which I hadn't really experienced at Edgbaston quite to that extent. So, I was pumped anyway, but that really got me going. And the atmosphere of when we were picking up those early wickets was as good as I've experienced.
Good, quite right. Now, Lewis Pacey has asked, what was it like playing in the World Cup final? What are your memories of the day?
I mean, it was just surreal. It still is. I mean, for you guys watching it as fans and even neutrals watching the game, you just don't get ends to game of cricket like that too often, do you? If ever. In particular the circumstances. With Stokesy doing what he did at the end, needing 15 off 4, was it? And then the 6, the extra 4 runs off the bat. Those things just are freak things that don't happen, and literally never happen. So I think my memories of the day are just kind of blurred to a certain extent. But I mean, just incredible to be a part of that, to be a part of the World Cup final, to be a part of the best game that's probably been ever played. In terms of the way it finished, is a great honour. So and thankfully we came out on the on the winning side, which is just bizarre to think, but incredible. It's an incredible day, which thankfully we'll be able to share with some great teammates, but also some family members as well, which was so important.
Did you find yourself getting nervous watching it back? I was watching it on the watch back, and I was going,
oh mate. Every time I've watched that and Headingley in the Ashes Test match, but the World Cup final, whenever I see the highlights, whenever I see the final ball of the Super Over on Twitter to the Titanic music, anything that, I just get goosebumps and kind of think, like when the ball's rolling to Jaber, I'm like, pick it up clean. Then he throws it in, I'm like, Josh, take the stumps. It's just it's bizarre, mate. Just find myself sweating out of nowhere.
I love that. Very good. Now, we've got a question from the live stream from Matthew Jones asking, what work did you do with Goffey over the winter? New Zealand.
So Goffey came on as like a bowling consultant for a few weeks. And to be honest, not a huge amount of technical work with Goffey. It was more just talking of his experiences playing abroad, what worked for him, talking about the things with the Kookaburra ball in particular, kind of trying to make sure that we attack with the harder Kookaburra ball. He also spoke, my record away from home hasn't been the best, and he said there's no reason why you can't succeed. Really, kind of just trying to motivate me in the right direction, which and try and point me in the right direction to try and improve away from home. And one of the things was that he wanted me to do was to try and bowl a fuller length, and something which I really worked hard at doing. And thankfully saw some good results from that over the winter, which is really pleasing.
Brilliant. He's also team cheerleader, I guess, Goffey.
He's as you can imagine, he was just the heartbeat of the team for 2 weeks, just bouncing off guys for banter. The boys were abusing him as well. He took it well. He gave it out as well as he got it. But yeah, great character to have around the dressing room. I think we had him for about 2 or 3 weeks, as I said. I think having him for a full tour, I think the lads have been trying to knock his head off in the change room by the end, because he's just relentless all the time.
He's full
but he was fantastic, mate. He was really good and great character. And look, he was a legend of England cricket. So to have him on board for a little while as a bowler was fantastic.
So true. Now, Paul Rise asked, who's the best batsman you've played with and against? It's a toughie.
With and against. Different formats obviously predict different players, don't they? But I think the best player I've played with, it's a tough one. And I probably should say an Englishman, shouldn't I? But I think best player I've played with, I'm going to say, from a white ball perspective, is A.B. de Villiers. I played with him at IPL. Incredible talent. Everyone knows how good he is. He's a bit of a freak, and he just, some of the things he can do is just completely different to what anyone else can do in the world. I think Josh is close to him, and I think he will be close to him. And eventually, I think Josh will catch up with him. But I think he would be the best player I've played with. Best player I've probably played against. I've played against him, but probably say Virat. I think Virat across all 3 formats. He's his stats don't lie, do they? He's a world class performer in all formats. So Virat Kohli, I'd probably say.
Very good, good answer. Now Ben Kay's asked you a question about the 100 here. Watching the draft unfold, which players did you think, oh, what a signing, and which players do you think, wow, that's a bit left field? There's a lot of emotion in that question as well. Nice one, Ben.
That's took me by surprise, that, to be honest with you. It's obviously sad news that the 100's been postponed, but probably the right decision.
Yeah.
But I think it was a good buy. I'm going to pick. For me personally, being part of Birmingham Phoenix, I'd say Kane Williamson, I think, was a great signing for us. Obviously, he's a world class player. And he doesn't probably get the recognition he deserves in the shorter format. Yeah. So I think he was a shrewd signing. We didn't get him at the top price as well. He was a couple down, I think. So probably say him. And then the bizarre one, that's a tricky one, isn't it? I would say the most bizarre one that I probably didn't get picked would be someone like Ollie Stone. Ollie Stone didn't get picked up. For a guy that bowls 90 mile an hour, can be an X-factor sort of bowler. I think he's probably a guy that obviously wasn't a pick, but he should have been picked. And I think, come next year, there'll be wildcard picks and things. So I think he will get a go.
Yeah, good. Yeah, because I didn't know that. You've educated me there.
Yeah.
There we go. Moving on from the 100. Now, Michelle has asked you, I've actually had a few questions like this, so we'll put it all into one. How do you manage to look so well groomed and not a hair out of place when you've had the whole day bowling or in the field?
Well, I get a bit of, I don't know if you want to call it stick or abuse or just compliments, whatever you want to call it. The guys give me those sort of compliments and a bit of banter about my lid all the time. But to be honest, it doesn't really move. That's the thing. It's a bit of a Lego head, to be brutally honest. Because, it's a bit out of place now, being in thingy, but it just doesn't really move. It kind of just sticks in one place, especially under a cap. So I can assure you I don't spend hours before the game gelling it in the bathrooms or anything. But, once I get it under a cap, it kind of just stays there. So that's my answer to that.
I think Pudsey and a few other people we've had on might argue that you do, but we'll leave that one.
No, that's poor behaviour from them.
Poor from them.
Because they know I don't.
No, it's You're very lucky to not have a long, stupid lid like mine.
Well, I'd get the Alice band in yours, you know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
get it.
Good shout. Now, Deco has asked you a question, who I'm sure
Deco, good man.
Yeah, he's just said congratulations to you and the boys on the World Cup win and thank you for the memories. And he's also said, now, how do you manage to have a smile on your face all the time when you're playing cricket?
Well, firstly, Deco, obviously know Deco from many tours. I hope he's well. I hope you're safe, mate. Good to hear from you. But I don't know, mate. I've just always played the game that way. I've tried to play with a smile on my face. There's never, of course, there's moments when you're disappointed, you're frustrated, and sometimes that does show. And I'm sure there are times when I haven't quite got a smile on my face. I'm sure some of the lads will know that I can get in the odd grump every now and then, as every fast bowler can. But I try to play with a smile on my face. It's the way I've played the game since I was a kid. It's the way my mum and dad have brought me up. And you often, when you're in the heat of the battle, the best thing to think about is the reason why you're playing the game. The reason why you fell in love with it in the first place, and that always puts a smile on my face. So that's the reason, mate. Really, and hopefully that can continue.
Very good. Very good answer for all you kids watching as well. Now, I'm going to move a bit Warwickshire now because there's been quite a lot of Warwickshire-based questions, so we're going to ask you them. Who's your favourite bear of all time? That's from Shavy.
Favourite bear of all time? Jeez, that is such a good question. I've obviously played with some ridiculously good players, Jonathan Trott, Ian Bell.
Yeah.
These guys are not just great county players, but great international players as well. But I think growing up when I was watching the game a lot, and my old man was obviously a Warwickshire fan as well. That's the reason why I kind of started watching cricket and stuff. Brian Lara was at the club back then. Right. Sean Pollock. There's some world-class players, but I think the one that stands out for me is probably Alan Donald, I think. I've been a bowler as well myself, watching some of the footage of him bowling at Michael Atherton and those sort of the battles that they had. The fact that he was a Warwickshire player for such a long time, and then fortunately managed to get coached by him as well at Warwickshire was almost a dream come true. So, Alan Donald, favourite bear of all time, I'd say.
Very good answer. Now, I'm staying with the Birmingham theme. Now, Lisa Brink has asked you, we all know you're a big Villa fan. What's your thoughts on Grealish leaving Villa?
I think I'm kind of just resigned to the fact that, he's going to leave, unfortunately. But, fair play to him. He's obviously stayed at Villa for a long time, but he'll be missed. He's obviously, for me, I think he'll be a serious player and he'll play for England in the near future. But it'd be such a shame to see him leave. But, he's left the club, stayed with the club for as long as he possibly can, give his all. And, he's gave us some good memories. So, he's probably fair enough the fact that he's going to push on. I hope he gets a good deal. And hopefully he goes to a good club as well. So we'll see. We'll see where he goes.
I know a lot of Villa fans that are saying the same thing as you. Certain clubs you don't want him to go to, but I won't mention those names. Now, on to the Warwickshire team again. Who's your best mate in the current Warwickshire team?
Current Warwickshire team. That's a good question because obviously we don't spend a huge amount of time, as when you're involved with England a lot. You don't tend to spend too much time with the counties, which is a shame in a way. But then obviously it's great that we're playing for England. But the best guy or best mates at the minute probably be Ollie Stone up there, Ollie Stone and Dom Sibley, who's obviously in the England team as well, who's done brilliantly, hasn't he, since coming in? It's great to see him going well. They're two guys that probably. I get on really. Jeetan Patel is one of my oldest pals as well. He's been at the club for such a long time. Ian Bell, been known Belly since I was a young lad as well. So some senior guys which I get on really well with as well. But at the moment I spend a lot of time with Ollie Stone and Dom Sibley.
Was it good having Jeetan Patel on tour?
Awesome, great, really was brilliant. Like I said, to have a mate of mine kind of working with us as an England side in the and the backroom staff is brilliant. And he's been fantastic for us as a side for the spinners in particular. Obviously, that's his role, but I know the spin bowlers in our side are delighted with the work he's done with them. They really enjoy his company. They enjoy his passion for spin bowling, and hopefully we can keep him on board for a long time.
Quality. Now the final you bear question is from Andy Thompson, who you well know, and as a fellow coffee lover,
yeah.
What beans are you drinking right now?
Show you. This is me. I mean, some people are going to think this is so boring, aren't they? But this is me, mate. It's a Morgan brand, and its origin is in Colombia. It's very nice, and it says on the side here that it's elegant, floral, and juicy. But try and get a part of them, mate. They're roasted. These are roasted in Sweden, so
they've done some magic.
Get on to good stuff.
Are you a big coffee geek then?
A little bit. The lads always, Ruti always says to me, if you ever want a coffee, speak to WOAKES first, and he'll hook you up with a decent coffee spot. But it's kind of just grown on me, really, with age, really. I mean, it's a bit of one of those things that comes with age, I think. But I really enjoy it. I just, it's one of the ways, particularly in and around cricket, it's something that really kind of like helps me switch off and just kind of get away from the game, go and enjoy a coffee in a coffee shop or whatever, chat some rubbish with a couple of mates, and or even just go on my own and watch the world go by and listen to a podcast or something like that. It's you don't get those opportunities to do that too often. So it's just a way of me switching off, I think.
Yeah, good. Very good. Now, Ross Hage just asked a really good question on the live stream. As you well know, the Barmy Army haven't been to Lords before until the World Cup final. He's asked, did being able to have the Barmy Army in for the semi and the World Cup final together make a difference? Huge difference. As I touched on earlier, having that the atmosphere that day was just so special. I remember the practice day or 2 practice days out, you guys were at the ground recording some songs for your social. I can't remember whether that was the World Cup or the Ashes, but anyway. But I remember you guys being in the ground that day, and just whenever the Barmy Army are around, mate, it makes a huge difference because no other team gets any sort of following like that, and it just really does give us a boost. And I think the beauty about it is you guys go hard and get stuck in with us, whether you're whether we're losing, we're winning, or whether the game's in the balance. You generally are always giving it your all, which is fantastic. Now, we've spoke to a lot of people on the podcast and on Barmy Army Meets who were playing in the Cape Town test, and they've all said that was pretty special how in the final session we G'd you on. Did you share that feeling with them? Yeah, well, I didn't play that test, but I was obviously on the sidelines and I was in the dugout at the time with the other lads. Yeah. And to be honest, we spent majority of that final session looking at you guys rather than the cricket. It was unbelievable. It really was, to have that backing and that support. Clearly egged the lads on. And that was one of the great Test match wins, wasn't it? And to be able to celebrate with the fans after as well, do a bit of a lap of honour and show our support. That really does. It shows that we really do appreciate what you guys do for us as a team. Very kind. Now, we've had someone that asked the question, who did you idolise as a kid when you were growing up? I didn't really have anyone in particular, like specifically. As we spoke about, I'm a big Aston Villa fan. I followed Aston Villa since a young age. I've followed England cricket for a long time. I enjoyed my golf. I used to love watching Tiger Woods play. So I had quite a few different, sports heroes, really, I suppose, in that respect. I didn't really kind of have one. I used to love watching Goffey bowl more because of the fact of his character and how he came out across. He kind of always played with a smile on his face, always got stuck in, played the game the right way. So they're the kind of things that I remember remembering most. Tiger Woods upstairs, a golfer, as I touched on, Darren, Freddie,
as well. Kind of as I was getting older through my teenage years, loved watching Freddie play cricket as well. And then was a big Villa fan, so there was many, I had many Villa heroes as well. Dwight York being one of them, Juan Pablo Angel, which many probably people won't remember, but these sort of guys, I remember them well, and they were the guys that I really enjoyed watching play. So I had quite a few.
Oh, very good, very good. Now, you were quite a decent footballer, weren't you, growing up?
I was all right, mate. I wasn't too. I weren't horrendous, but I was all right.
Who's the best in the England team in your warm-ups?
Some would say so, but to be honest, mate, I reckon because of my dodgy knees, I can't get around as well as I used to. So I kind of just sit in defensive midfield role and try and just knock it about a bit. Many say that I don't get enough goals to be the best player anymore, but. No, obviously football's been banned from now on. Yeah. But I used to love playing football warm-ups. It kind of got everyone's beans going, and really enjoyed it. But there's some decent footballers. Actually, standard. I mean, when you're playing it probably seemed a lot better than it actually was. But there's some half decent footballers in the squad.
Good. Now, we've had a question come in asking you what it was like. Although we lost at Edgbaston on day 5. What was it like hearing the Hollies stand still there on day 5 singing your name and to try and salvage the Great Escape?
Yeah, I mean, exactly what I've touched on earlier. Just amazing, really. It just shows that you guys are behind us, and the Barmy Army and the England fans really do get behind us regardless of what is going on the field, really. I think it just it gives us good pride, and it makes sure. I mean, we'll always try and fight for the end for us as a team and for everyone as fans, but just kind of make sure that we do remember, who we're playing for, and reminds us that we're always going to stick in till the end and don't give up, which is it's great to have that behind us.
Very good. And your song, goes, you've been to India and Gaul. Now, It has been raised a few times that you might not have played in Gaul. Is that true or false?
That's right. I didn't play in Gaul. I was there, but I didn't play.
Yeah.
I was on that tour, but unfortunately didn't play. But I did. I had remembered that. That's. But I mean, I love the song. I think it's great. I think it's brilliant. So I quite enjoy that.
No, it's about, and it doesn't really insinuate that you did play in Gaul. So it's
exactly.
Said you've been.
Exactly. So I'm fine with that. I'm cool with that.
Gemma Gray and Charlie Whale, who have both asked that question, you can now sleep happy tonight. Now, John, one of the Barmy Army members, has asked you, as we're all about touring, who, if you could, 2 players would you choose to tour with?
Oof. 2 players that I would decide to choose. Oh, that is such a tough question. One would be Liam Plunkett. Because Pudsy's the funniest man alive. Without a shadow of a doubt, he's the funniest man alive. He literally just needs to pull any face and I'm in bits. So, great man, one of the greats. Liam Plunkett. I'm just trying to think.
I think he actually said you 2 weeks ago when he was on, so that's...
That's a good compliment. I would take Woody, but I reckon I'd be so frustrated with him after a couple of days. I'd be like, Woody, I've had enough. just turn it down a fraction. Just constantly peppering you. Oh God, it's tough. It's a tough one.
That's it. Pudsey and Woody. There you go.
Woody, yeah, okay, fair enough. Woody's made the cut.
We're happy with that. Chris Dixon on the live stream is actually, who's hit you for the biggest 6 in your career?
Biggest 6.
Brutal.
Oh, I've picked for too many to remember who. I think Evan Lewis, actually. Evan Lewis from the West Indies. It was like he plays this pick-up off his hip. And
big fella.
I try, whenever I'm bowling at him, I try and avoid his hip because, I know that's his go-to. I got one wrong, and it was just like, as I let him go, I was like, oh no. And it was at the Wankhede in India, in Mumbai, and the ball just seems to fly there. And it went into the top tier there, which is it's a big hit.
Yeah, it's a long way. That's a very good answer. We've had someone asking you, what's the best practical joke you've ever seen or played yourself on a teammate?
I tend to stay away from these practical jokers in the team. That's certainly not my go-to. I think the best one I could think of was I didn't actually go on the tour, but it was when I was a very young. I was coming up through the academy and becoming a pro at Warwickshire, and the lads had stuck bricks before going on pre-season tour in Trotty's bag. And Trotty got the bag to check in, weighed it in, and was like, God, this is heavy, and obviously it came up way too heavy to go on the thing. And he's like pulling out the side these two massive bricks, and it was just like, as you can imagine, Trotty just went ape. Absolutely nailed them. But no, good fun.
That's a good one. That's a really good one. I'd love to ask Trotty about that one day. I wonder if he's still bitter.
Oh, he'd be sour. He'd be so sour.
Now, opening up, who we've partnered with, ask a couple of questions every week. And the first one they always ask is, how do you look after your mental health, being a high-class elite athlete?
It's a good question. I think, I suppose some of the things that we've touched on really already, and the thing is trying to get away from the game. Because when we're involved as an international cricketer, you're under decent pressure, quite a lot of scrutiny. Your game's always been tested, and as a result, that does play on your mind quite a lot. So I think getting away from the game is really important. For me, that is spending time with my family. With my little girl who's nearly 2 years old, my wife Amy, friends and family. Just trying to get away from it, and as we touched on, I like drinking coffee. I find that as a good release for me. Some people won't quite grasp that, but for me it's just something that works, and just helps me get away from the game. I think the pressures that the game brings, particularly at the highest level, can take their toll. So just finding a way to get away from it. I enjoy golf. I play as much golf as I possibly can in and around the family time when I'm allowed. At the minute I'm trying to get into cycling to try and keep fit whilst we're in this lockdown. Just things like that to try and take your mind off the pressures of international cricket.
Very good to hear. Now, how do you motivate yourself to play county cricket when you've played in front of full houses every week? How do you go from playing in a full stadium to an empty stadium for your county?
Yeah, I don't find it too difficult at all, actually. I think the thing for me is what I do find difficult is sometimes coming back and having that added pressure that you almost have to perform with you being their so-called England player. That's something which has played on my mind a lot more than kind of being up for the games and not having as many people watching. That's not necessarily the case. For me, being a Warwickshire home-born player, it means a lot for me every time I play for Warwickshire. So I really enjoy playing for Warwickshire. I just sometimes have struggled with that kind of expectation, I suppose, of having to perform, which I think I got better at over the years. I think once you play for England, you are expected to produce the goods more often than not in county cricket, which we all know county cricket's still an extremely quality game with some high class players. So that can sometimes be difficult, but getting up for it is never been an issue.
And hopefully we'll get some this summer, but fingers crossed.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Yeah. So, sorry. There's another question on the live stream. I was just reading it. It's quite a long one. But what is your first thing to do once the pandemic is over? What's your to-do list? What's the first thing you want to do? Probably go for a coffee, I guess.
Yeah, go for a coffee is high on the agenda, let me tell you. Yeah, go for a really proper coffee, because I'm trying to make as good a coffee at home as I can, but it still doesn't quite cut it. But I think the things that, and the obvious things are, see parents, be able to hug parents and hug, my nieces and nephews and things like that. See the in-laws, for my wife, and I think I can't wait for my little girl to be able to hug her grandparents again. That's probably the most, will be the most pleasing things. But from a personal point of view, probably play golf and go for a coffee. That'll probably be the most two on my list.
Happy days. Ross, I'm going to slightly adapt your question into a shorter question. What's the best sledge that you ever heard and the worst?
Oh, sledging's hard because sledging, like witty sledging, has completely gone out the window. It's just pure abuse now. It's just you're this, you're that. You used to be this. You used to, There's no classic banter anymore, to be brutally honest. But
That's quality.
I mean, one came up on the PCA quiz that we did last night about Mark Waugh giving some grief to Jimmy Ormond on his debut, I think, in a Test match, and I think Jimmy Ormond's response was, "Well, at least I'm the best player in my family," and that's one of the good comebacks. But to be honest, I can't really repeat some of the sledges that we cop nowadays because it's just
brutal.
Yeah, brutal, boring, aggressive chat. So unfortunately, I can't really say it. But you're not missing much by not hearing great sledges anymore, to be honest.
Have you watched the Test yet? The documentary series on Amazon?
So I've seen up until the end of the World Cup. I haven't seen past that, so I haven't seen the last couple of episodes. But yeah, what did you think of it? Did you think it was good?
I thought it was a great PR stunt. Yeah, I thought.
Yeah.
I think on the face of it, I think it's really interesting for fans to be able to watch what it's like in the changing room, to be given an insight.
Yeah.
But I think the more it goes on, the more it looks like a PR stunt. So,
yeah.
But you know what? I was going to ask you, would you like that if it was to happen for the England side? How would you see that as a pro?
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? I think it's tricky. I mean, obviously, you're constantly going to have a couple of guys around you with cameras in the dressing room and things like that. And I'd like to think that we, as a team, would still stick to our, what we do. Don't change anything, obviously. And you just hope that nothing's being done specifically for cameras because, obviously, if we'd have potentially had one for the World Cup, although it would have looked great at the end of it, you just hope that it wouldn't have changed us as a team, which I'm sure it wouldn't. But I think it'd be hard as well to know that you're constantly being watched, particularly in your changing room, because your changing room is a very sacred place. And of course, we do occasionally have cameras in there, but it's at the right times, for social media content and things like that. And it's a guy that we've known for a long time. He's part of the team. He's part of us as a group.
Yeah.
Whereas having a couple of people come in from the outside would be really strange, I think, particularly in the changing room environment, which is kind of our sacred place and it's our bubble, and no one really gets into that. So that'd be strange, I think.
What's it like in the IPL for media interest and in the overseas leagues? Is it any different to what you're?
Yeah, I mean, not hugely different. I mean, the dressing rooms are obviously a little bit of a different makeup. Obviously you've got 8 overseas players. All the rest. You've got some very young Indians that are here to just enjoy it and kind of be there and try and, I suppose, experience it and learn. And then you've got obviously some more experienced pros, some international Indian superstars. So it's a weird makeup, but it's a great tournament. It's great to be a part of those dressing rooms because you do learn and you do get to meet some interesting people, some world class players. But the media content from that point of view, it's very similar to an international dressing room in terms of, it's not over the top until after the game.
Yeah.
It's during the game, it's all very serious and taken seriously.
Yeah, very good. Do you enjoy mixing with all the overseas that you compete with at such a high level in the World Cup and the Test championships? Do you enjoy sharing the room with them?
Yeah, it's fantastic, mate. It really is. It's brilliant. To be able to dip into their ideas, how they work as professionals, what's made them so good. And things like that is great. As I touched on before, being able to play with the likes of AB de Villiers, Virat Kohli, those sort of guys, unless you play in the IPL, you're not going to experience those players up close and personal, and you kind of get to know them off the field as well, which is great. We often just see guys in the heat of the battle and can kind of judge them on their character then. But, when you get to know someone off the field who all you've ever known is from having that hot-headed battles on the field with. It's actually quite nice to get to know that they're actually just a normal guy. They're actually quite nice to have a drink with, share a beer with. Really enjoyed my time at the IPL. Hopefully it can go again in the future.
Well, let's hope so, eh? Now, Simon Edmonds asked a tough question here, Chris. Be ready for this one. Simple choice. If you could play one format for the rest of your career, what would it be?
Oof, that is a tough question.
Someone that plays every format, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think now, I mean, having won the World Cup, I think last year, I could easily, say, I'm happy with how that's gone. But I think growing up, all the cricket I watched growing up was Test cricket. Always wanting to play Test cricket for England. Always seen it as the pinnacle, and still do. So I don't think I could kind of, I'd have to kind of just go down the Test route, I think, if I had to choose one. But again, it's such a tricky question. That is hard, but let's say Test cricket.
Now, Streaky, who's one of the original founders of the Barmy Army back in 94-95, he's asked, was the semi-final against Australia the best performance ever by an England team? What a question.
Jeez, yeah. I mean,
it is.
I mean, you know what? It's not a bad shout because, in context of what the game was, a semi-final of a World Cup against Australia, who are obviously a world-class outfit, having lost to them a couple of weeks before, to annihilate them in that fashion, and completely wipe the floor with them, it's probably got to be up there. It really has, especially under that pressure. I don't think England teams in the past have been, got that far in tournaments and coped with the pressure very well. And I think to put in a performance like that under that pressure against the Aussies is, he's up there, I reckon, with one of the best performances England have ever made. I really do. I probably agree.
Yeah, me too. Now, Ross has asked another question. Talking about the Test series, do you think Justin Langer's methods were too harsh on the players? Interesting.
I don't know. It's every coach has their own style, I suppose. I've watched a bit of that Test documentary on Amazon, and I played quite a bit against Justin Langer when he played for Somerset, and he always was a tough competitor. He was always hard to play against. He was always tough to get out. He was a world-class player. But I had heard behind the scenes that, he does like things done a certain way and he's quite strict. But then, I thought he come across quite well on the on the documentary, to be fair. He's clearly one of these guys that likes things done professionally and what he sees to be professional. And obviously respects the fact that playing for Australia is bigger than the individual. So, I wouldn't say he's too harsh on their players. I think it's just his style. We've all been a part of teams where coaches like to do things differently, and I think at the end of the day, if he's in charge, he's entitled to do it his own way.
Very good, sir. Now, if you have any more questions, please comment them on the live stream. I'm going to wrap up in about 2 or 3 questions time, so make sure you get them in now to avoid disappointment. Paul Rye, can you talk us through the best spell you've ever seen of bowling? As a player, I think you've got to be on the field for this spell.
Yeah, I was going to say, on the field, I think it's going to be pretty easy. I mean, I would have said if it was off the field, it would have been probably one of Alan Donald's. But the fact that I was on the field during this moment, I think watching Jofra bowl, there's a couple actually. I think his opening spell in the first World Cup game against South Africa, where he literally bowled the speed of light, like he bowled rapid. I still think that's the quickest I've ever seen him bowl. Quicker than the spell at Lord's. For genuine theatre and atmosphere, I think I'm going to have to say that spell to Steve Smith at Lord's. To put it into context, this bloke was on Test debut. It's not like he's a seasoned pro and he's got through 40 tests, 50 tests. This was his first Test match at Lord's, the home of cricket, in an Ashes Test match, and produced something like that. So I'm going to say I'm going to say that at Lord's. I mean, I was at fine leg and just remember thinking, this is fast, seriously fast. That probably Jofra's spell at Lord's.
What did you think when it hit Smith? Were you concerned?
Yeah, really concerned. I think everyone was, particularly the lads on the field. Immediately, I think generally as a player, you kind of know if someone's been hit and it's kind of caught them a bit awkwardly, or it's caught flesh, or it's caught the helmet. You kind of can tell by the sound. When I was at fine leg, and the sound was very, it's fleshy and thuddy, which is always a bad sign to start with. Very, very I suppose worrying times. But thankfully, I know Steve was okay. Obviously, come away with the concussion, but I think that was probably a good result for him in the end. Really, it could have been a hell of a lot worse. So thankfully, he was okay.
Yeah, I've never seen a man turn a crowd so much since I've been in cricket. The way he turned around from the first day at Edgbaston to when the end of the Ashes series, he finally got clapped by the whole crowd. It was amazing to see. So I know we were wishing him well. There was not one member who was hoping that he was.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So Gary Taylor has asked, who's the best cricketer in the world right now, in your opinion?
Best cricketer across the board. It's tricky because different formats, isn't it? T20 alone, I would say Andre Russell, just because I think no one hits a ball as clean as him. Literally no one hits a ball that clean. He's a freak, and he's clearing boundaries for fun. I know players generally do nowadays, but he is a beast, and he's scary to bowl at. So maybe him T20, and then across the board, everything else, no doubt about it, Ben Stokes. Absolute, no questions answered. There's just no one else.
Yeah.
He's producing the best every time he goes out to play, with bat ball, bat balling in the field. And, it's no surprise. He's obviously a world-class player, but the hard yards that he puts in off the field, he's really coming to fruition, I suppose. He's different league. He is.
Amazing to watch. We're watching history. I keep telling everyone when we watch Ben.
Yeah.
That's it. So, someone's asked here, Lords, where does it rank? Sorry, your Lords 100, where does it rank as best moments playing for England?
Yeah, I think it's certainly up there. I think it's probably in my top 3, 4, maybe. I think. Number one for me is winning the World Cup, no doubt about that. From a team point of view, it was incredible. It's a huge moment. I think probably number 2. This is just off the top of my head. Don't take this as fact. Number 2, probably making my Test debut. That's still one of the most special moments in an Ashes Test match as well.
Yeah.
In 2013. Number 3 would probably be getting on the honours board and getting my first 5 at Lords for England. And then number 4, probably scoring 100 at Lords as well. So, some amazing memories, but it's certainly up there.
Not a bad list. Now, the last question, we've asked this to everyone, so I'm going to ask it one more time. Who's the longest in the shower?
It's pretty easy, isn't it? Jofra.
Unanimous question. Woakesy, thank you so much for doing this for the Barmy Army and for everyone. Have you got a message to them all who are in home at the minute?
Yeah, guys. Well, firstly, thanks for your support, your continued support. The players and myself. We really do. We're really grateful for what you do for us as a side. As I touched on earlier, we have that support that no other team gets, and you follow us all the way around the world, which we know the sacrifices you make to do that. So, really appreciate that. Keep up the good work. It never goes unnoticed. And currently, just stay safe, stay home. Hopefully we can get cricket back on TVs, back in real life as soon as possible, because we're missing it as players as much as you guys are as fans. So keep well, look after your families, and hopefully we're back out there as soon as we can.
We all need it. Thank you everyone for watching. Remember to check out the old episodes. Thanks to Chris one more time. Cheers.